Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Evan McCauley, president of the club, and we are thrilled to have you joining us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel. Our club meets weekly at Laurel Lake for breakfast on Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. Come out and join us for a meeting. We'd love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact that we are having on the local community and world, please visit rotaryhudson.org. Enjoy the meeting today and be the inspiration.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name's Ron Strobel. I'm the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Kelly Brennan.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Kelly. Not that tall. We all bow our heads. Lord, will you take these folks in front of us and look over them? Will you care for them? Will you care for their families, for their friends? Will you take us in your arms and will you hold us and show us the light of the day? And will you forever show us the love and the glory that you have given us over the many years? Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Kelly. To lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, David Ash.
Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning, David. If you could join me with saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, David. And now to introduce our guests. Chris Barker.
Okay, I'm going to introduce our guests in a kind of different way, and then everyone can join me in song, okay? So, I know,
I got that mixed up.
that's okay. It's better this way. It's better this way. Okay, I know I apologize. I missed a few guests as they were coming in and out today. So, to make this easier, I would like all of the Clock Tower Rotarians to please raise their hands and just introduce themselves. Just give me your name, please, so we can all know you're joining us today. Okay. Thank you.
Rick Pollock, Tiger Falls.
Cheryl Ramona. Pat Myers. Jim Moss.
Ted Olson. Ray Krasinski. Joe DeVello.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Rotarians, for joining us. And then I'm just going to quickly go through this list. Like to, people just raise their hand so we can acknowledge them and thank them for attending as well. Harvey Hanna. Let's see, Mary Donatelli. Bill McClure. Nora Snyder. Marie Libby. I don't know. Jim Squires. I don't know if you had said your name yet. Let's see. We have Chris Stroke. And oh yeah, we have so many guests. We have so many. And then Phil Beto from the treasurer for Hudson City School District. Well, everybody, if I didn't call your name, if you didn't introduce yourself, it's a warm Rotary welcome. Thank you, and please join me in song today. We're going to sing "God Bless America."
Beside her and guide her through the night with the light.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chris. And now our president, Tom Tobin.
Good morning, Rotarians and many guests this morning. We are thrilled to have such a big group this morning. See so many wonderful faces I haven't seen in a while. Thank you so much for being here. But it's for a very important reason for what we have going on today. So we have the candidates, the first of the group of candidates this morning. But before we get there, we have a couple of items I just wanted to mention. First of all, sorry about the parking. I thought this whole thing about the parking would be done by now, but hopefully nobody had to park in the lake. Second of all, we do have some folks here this morning who I think identified as Clock Tower Group, but they're not. We have a couple of folks who are here from other Rotary clubs in the cluster, so in our district cluster. So glad to have them this morning. We have a cluster meeting immediately after this meeting in the Greenwood Dining Room. So number 3, Mike Swain had something that he would like to tell the club briefly. Mike, you want to come on up?
Good morning, everyone. Just a couple of quick announcements from the Hudson High School Service Learning Program. First of all, our new technology assistant this month is Mason Mihalik. Please give Mason a hand back there.
Thank you, Mason.
Mason's going to help record everyone and record the events today. And we do need help with technology. The second announcement has to do, can I have the next slide, please? With the, remember the dates, 2 Wednesdays from now, October 16th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., we have the annual Camp Ledgeworth Retreat for the Service Learning Program at the high school. What this is this is at the Girl Scout camp in Peninsula, and the service learning students are there to complete a number of service learning tasks. They help with the cleanup and fix-up, similar to what we do with the other camp in the spring, and also with assembling donations for food pantries in the area, the Valor Home of Summit County, and so on. So Rotarians are welcome, encouraged to come out and help, especially to meet with the students and get to know them. At the end of this semester, we'll be asking for volunteers to sit in on their presentations of their projects. And it'd be nice to be able to get to know the students ahead of time so that you can feel more of a part of the service learning program, which we are. Lunch is provided. So thanks very much. Please jot the dates down and let me know if you can make it, and I will make the same announcement again next Wednesday. Thanks.
Great.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Mike. Mimi, could I have you come up too? So October 16th, if you're interested in participating, get in touch with Mike Swain. All right.
Usually I go out there because I can't see over. But anyway, this is a reminder and an invitation. Thank you. The League of Women Voters of Hudson is conducting a series of 4 workshops over the next 9 months, to which the citizens of Hudson are invited. And if you don't live here and you're interested in the topic of climate change, how do we deal with the changes that are occurring? How do we plan to reduce the impact on Hudson in terms of its long-term sustainability, both economically and environmentally? And the first of those workshops, which will look at the bigger picture in the area, is October the 10th. It's here in the community room from 7 to 9. And you all are invited. There will be a workshop-specific small group facilitated sessions to gain information, observations, and issues from the participants. And over time, there will be developed a series of recommendations to the city of Hudson and the rest of us who live here. So this is the kickoff, and if you want to come, feel free, and we will benefit by your participation. Thank you.
All right, great. And Coach Sogan asked me to remind everybody that we have Distinguished Hall of Fame induction ceremony this Saturday morning at the Hudson High School Media Center, the Jerry Reeves Media Center. Jerry Reeves, a former Rotarian. So everybody's invited. See Coach about details for that. And I think that's it. So if I could invite George Snyder up to MC the rest of the event.
Good morning, Rotarians. And welcome also to our many, many guests here this morning, and also to those who will be watching on Hudson Community Television. For all 5 Wednesdays during October, we will be hearing from candidates running for local election, beginning with the city council races for all 4 wards, and concluding on the 5th Wednesday with the race for mayor. Each of these races is contested, and in several, the incumbent has chosen not to run again. Thus, no matter what the outcome of the elections, the face of local government will change, and perhaps its direction as well. Our format for this morning and for all the subsequent meetings will be 5-minute presentations from each of the candidates here at the podium, followed by an open question and answer session with the candidates seated here in the chairs up here. They will have 90 seconds to respond to your questions. Fellow Rotarian Chris Barker, who is sitting right there in the, is that orange or pink or what would you? Okay, it was in the bright coat. She will act as timekeeper. Chris will give warnings when 60 seconds are left, when 30 seconds are left, and then when time is up. I will act as moderator, and I request audience members to be respectful to all candidates here this morning. Lacking any polling or donation data, we will ask candidates simply to speak in alphabetical order. This morning, we will hear from City Council candidates from Ward 1, where incumbent Dennis Hannick has chosen not to run for re-election. With us this morning are Ron Panaggio, Kate Schlotteman, and David Warhatch. A 4th candidate, Rebecca Leiter, did not respond to repeated invitations to come. I will begin by introducing Ron Panaggio. Ron is a 23-year resident of Hudson and currently works as Director of Employee Relations for Manufacturing Operations at MTD Products in Valley City, Ohio. A Virginia native, he graduated from James Madison University with a BS degree in Business Communications and began his professional career in transportation with Consolidated Freightways. He was promoted to a general manager position in Richmond and later in his career specialized in human resources and labor relations, negotiating contracts and handling arbitrations with the Teamsters and UAW, among others. Ron has served as a volunteer with Junior Achievement, North Coast Job Seekers, American Corporate Partners, 91.3 The Summit, and St. Mary's Church. He has been married to his college sweetheart for 37 years. They have 2 grown daughters, both of them graduated from Hudson High and Ohio University. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ron Panaggio.
Thank you very much. This is the first time that Panaggio is the first person to come. Yeah. I mean, what is my dumb luck, all right? Yeah. Anyways, I am delighted to be here. Thank you, George. Thank you, Rotarians. Thank you to those in attendance. I don't know if it was the candidates that attracted you here or the breakfast, but in either case, I'm glad to see a full house. I also would like to thank the fellow candidates. This would have been a very boring event if it would have just been me up here. So this gives you the opportunity to obviously see us in contrast with one another to help you make your decisions, and I think that's a wonderful thing. I was really impressed with what you said about me. I didn't know I had done so many things. But I think George had laid out a couple of things that he expected us to be able to cover here today, and I'll get to that. Why we're running, what our views on some of the things are, and I'll certainly speak to that. I did want to point out initially, though, probably a very subtle but important point. I announced my candidacy for this ward very early on, in April actually, before there was even a vote, the non-binding vote on phase 2. And I think that's important just simply because it leads to the first question that I think we want to answer, which is, why am I getting into the race, or why did I get into the race? When I went to go vote, like anybody else on this topic, I said I better do my research and I better find out exactly what this is all about. And in doing my research, I uncovered a number of other things, right, about what was going on in the city, and things like velocity broadband, which I had really no understanding of and didn't really understand where it came from and why we were getting involved in something like velocity broadband. I also started to uncover things related to some of the cost overruns that were related to the new city hall. And these were things that concerned me. And as I did more research and thought about it more, I said, maybe we need a change. Now, that doesn't mean that the people who have served and served very admirably up to this point have done anything necessarily wrong, right? This is a very difficult job, as I'm starting to find out. It may be a rather thankless one as well, but I do think that diversity of thought comes with diversity of people. And when you're able to occasionally change the composition of any group, right, even here in the Rotary, you start to get different ideas. And so I said, if not me, then who? And I went ahead and I made my decision to get into this race. First time I've ever done anything like this. I don't mind admitting that I'm a neophyte. But I love this community, and that's why I'm in it. So let's get down, I think, to maybe just a couple of the more detailed things that I think everybody's looking for in terms of qualifications. Obviously, you can read my LinkedIn page, but I'll go ahead and repeat some of those. I have sales experience. That's where I started my career initially. I went and I ran a $8 million transportation hub in Richmond, Virginia for about 4 years. There I managed a P&L, a budget, about 60 employees. It's where I learned to oversee large projects. I got involved at that point in labor relations and HR in a weird twist of fate that will take more time than I have. But through all of that, I was able to learn a number of different things like negotiating skills, collaboration, compromise, the seeking to get to win-win outcomes. You don't have many choices when you're dealing with Teamsters or the UAW, when you're trying to get to some kind of a situation or a win-win where both parties feel like they can move forward. So these are skills that came naturally to me and skills that I believe would serve me very well in this capacity. When it comes to what are some of the goals that I have for this city and what I envision for the city, I think this is a wonderful place to live. And I think everybody that I've ever talked to and this campaign has said what brought me here were things like a nice, quiet community where there were great schools, good infrastructure, and there was a feeling of safety and security. And it's my wish and my desire to get us on a track of fiscal responsibility. Doesn't mean no spending, but it just means taking our limited resources and directing them in the proper way. So I will be accountable, I will listen, and I will ask for everyone's support here today. I have a Facebook page. If you'd like to hear more about my ideas, you can certainly go to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second speaker will be Kate Schlademan. Kate is a graduate of Stowe Monroe Falls High School who went on to earn a degree in anthropology from the College of Worcester. She acquired the Learned Owl bookstore on Main Street when longtime owner Liz Murphy retired, and has also became a member of the Leadership Hudson class of 2015. Its project, called Pedal Hudson, and that's P-E-D-A-L, earned the city a bronze medal from the League of American Bicyclists as a bicycle-friendly community. Kate currently serves on the Leadership Hudson Board and is a member of Clock Tower Rotary, Hudson Chamber of Commerce, the Merchants of Hudson, and the Global Entrepreneurship Week Planning Committee. In addition, she is past president and current board member of the Great Lakes Independent Booksellers Association. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Kate Schlotterman.
Good morning, fellow Rotarians and guests. Thank you. I'm Kate Schlotterman, candidate for the Ward 1 Council position and owner of the Learned Owl Bookshop. As your council person, I will work tirelessly to maintain Hudson's positive momentum, to keep the city welcoming to younger and older residents alike, and to protect the historic core that is the heart of our city. I support the efforts of the current council and look forward to collaborating with all members of the new council as projects such as Phase 2 and the new City Hall progress. One of the biggest issues we currently face is a lack of effective communication. The city is starting to address this, and I'm eager to help drive this effort forward. It's probably no surprise books have always been a passion. After college, I worked at various retail jobs in order to learn the business. At 30, I felt the need to experience more of the world, so I moved to South Korea to teach English. After 5 years overseas, I was ready to settle down and move back here to be with my close-knit group of family and friends. Upon my return, the first place that I applied was the Learned Owl Bookshop. 2 years as the events coordinator demonstrated to me the importance of small business to the vibrance and character of Hudson. When the store went up for sale, I was lucky enough to buy it. As a new local business owner and resident, I wanted to contribute to bettering this community. Participating in the Leadership Hudson 2015 class was the perfect starting point for me. It provided an opportunity to learn about the city and make connections. I remain active in the Alumni Association and currently serve on the Leadership Hudson Board. As I became more involved in the community, I made my voice heard regarding important city improvements such as Phase 2 and the Main Street construction project. I've continued to work hard to experience our town from many angles. The more I learn, the harder I want to fight to preserve this community that we all love. The proof of my passion and energy can be seen most obviously in the bookshop, which continues to be a keystone of Main Street. I plan to take the same passion and energy to the council, where I will be the voice of residents as well as the business community. My campaign has had some unexpected twists, but I'm no less committed today than when I had started. In fact, I'm even more committed. I suspect most of you have heard something about an issue with my voter registration. I acknowledge my mistake and in not updating my address in a timely manner and express my regrets for this. But when I err in life, I learn from it. Going forward, I will educate others about this issue that I have discovered many are susceptible to. In fact, so many people have told me that they've done the same thing. If I had a nickel for every person, I think I would be able to fund my entire campaign. In all seriousness, I'm here to address all of you who consider the current issues and my total character more important than one mistake. Living and working in different parts of the country, as well as the world, has given me the skills to successfully collaborate with people of different cultures, ideals, and faiths. I'm a listener by nature and appreciate the need to hear and consider the point of view of as many people as possible before I make decisions. I believe my varied life experience and the work I have done since moving here has given me the tools to lead Hudson in a positive and productive direction. Looking over this audience, I see many Learned Owl customers, and I am grateful for each of you every day. As the owner of a local business and a historic building, my retail operation must evolve if it is to survive and flourish. At the same time, I must remain committed to the bedrock qualities which have drawn repeat customers for over 50 years. This is the exact balance that I plan to bring to City Council and the decisions I will make as your council person. Having the opportunity daily to interact with so many residents and having so much pride in the community, I know that I will find ways to preserve our past by leading us into the future. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Our final speaker this morning will be David Warhatch. David next month will complete his 40th year in the practice of law. He graduated in 1979 from the University of Notre Dame School of Law, where he served on its law review. After graduation, he served as law clerk to a federal judge, going on to join law firms both in Grand Rapids and in Cleveland. And later after that, joined 2 multinational corporations as in-house counsel. In 1985, David left corporate America to form his own law firm specializing in labor and employment, estate planning, and real estate law. He represents property owners, businesses, and public employees in litigation and other matters involving state and local government. David was elected a Hudson Township trustee in 1991 and served on the first post-merger city council in 1994. He has been a Hudson resident since 1987 and has 2 adult sons, both of whom attended Hudson schools from kindergarten through high school. Please join me now, ladies and gentlemen, in welcoming David Warhatch.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and thanks everybody at the Rotary for scheduling these forums for the candidates for City Council and Mayor. I'm David Warhatch, and I'm a candidate for election as your next Ward 1 City Council member. The program organizers have generously allowed me 5 minutes to present my credentials and the reasons why I think I make the best candidate, but I don't think I'll need to take that long. If you've been remotely aware of city government and local politics in the last several years, you probably already know that I am not only the most experienced, but also the most qualified of the 4 candidates running for election in this race. I've always stood for the public's interests over special interests, whether it's been to check developers and keep them from running roughshod over undeveloped areas of the township before merger, or insisting on local government living within its means and allocating tax dollars for the benefit of our residents and businesses instead of developers out to make a quick buck, or holding public officials accountable, both as an elected official and as an attorney in private practice, or removing a city manager from office when he helped himself to 2 pay increases and benefits expressly prohibited by City Council, or most recently, holding a private citizen to account when he tried to qualify for this election, even though the charter expressly prevented him from doing so. Every candidate owes it to the voters to explain why he or she is running. For me, it's because it's high time that we start holding our elected council members to account for the choices they are making when it comes to allocating tax dollars. We need to start making choices that benefit the public at large, and instead of individual segments of the community only. We need to stop investing in a broadband service that by design will not be available to every single citizen of Hudson, and particularly since the odds are that this system that's being installed will be obsolete in 10 years. We need to make the right choices when it comes to developing the former Youth Development Center in the northwest end of town. And given Council's track record with respect to Phase 2 downtown, I have no confidence that those currently holding office in the city will do the right thing on that project. We need to accept that when the opinion of the electorate is solicited by way of a referendum, Council will honor the results of the vote and not ignore them the way the House of Commons in the United Kingdom is now ignoring the people's vote on Brexit. Those are the particular policy motivations for my decision to run. But in the end, there are only 2 fundamental reasons for me to take this on at this point in my career. The first is that I know how to be your eyes and ears on City Council. Someone needs to tackle that job. Why not me? People know that they can trust me to hold city officials accountable, to avoid wasting our tax dollars, and to invest in our community and our safety forces more than skateboard parks, bike trails, and that broadband internet service. And people know that I'm not bashful when it comes to exposing unwise choices made by our local officials and keeping paid city staff focused on the most important issues that deliver results efficiently and in a way that will be fair to the community at large. The second reason I'm running goes back to something my father instilled in me at an early age and reinforced in me as I started to realize success in the private practice of law. He always said that to whom the blessings of curiosity, ambition, and talent have been given, the greater the expectation that such person will apply those attributes for the greater good of society. One day, soon after forming my own law firm, I negotiated a favorable settlement for a client and earned a 5-figure contingent fee. I took a copy of the check representing my share of the settlement to my father, and I proudly displayed it in front of him as I offered to repay the small loan he had given me to start my practice. I'll never forget the words that my father uttered in response. He glanced at the check, reached into his hip pocket, pulled out his wallet, and shook it at me. And he said, "When St. Peter tallies up your life, he doesn't care how thick your wallet is, or how big your house was, or how fancy your car was. All he will want to know, how many people did you help along the way?" I have remained faithful to those words ever since my dad uttered them to me. That is what motivates me to volunteer my time to run for this office, and if elected, you can count on my remaining faithful to the principles that I have just articulated as I do my level best to continue making my father proud. Thank you.
All right, we'll invite the 3 candidates to come up and have a seat. James Field has several microphones, I'm sure, which we can pass around to the audience. What I would like to suggest is that if you have a question of the candidates, to do 2 things. One, hold your hand and wait to be recognized. Secondly, make it clear whether you're addressing your question to one candidate or all of the candidates so that we know who to ask to speak. While we're getting the microphones out there, I will start. It's on now?
The light has to be
The red light should be on.
Yep, that's on.
I will start by asking a question, and then we'll turn it over to the audience. Hudson, for as long as I can remember, has had a city manager form of government with a bipartisan or nonpartisan council, not running as Democrats or Republicans. And I would like to ask all 3 of the candidates, do you support that system, or would you like to see changes made to it? You may start. Whoever wants. Just.
If you want me to do it from here?
Yeah, right.
Okay. The city manager form of government has limitations. The one thing that we have to be careful about with the city manager form of government is allowing the city manager, who's unelected and therefore unaccountable to the people, to be the one who is making or driving the policy decisions. The agenda needs to be driven by city council and the mayor's office, and not by the city manager. My concern is with the current form of government that the mayor's office has too little power. The mayor should be more of an executive of the city, because the mayor then is the only person who would be elected to be responsible for the entire administration of the city, and therefore directly accountable to the voters. We have the ability every 4 years to get rid of the mayor, and we have every year we have the ability to remove the mayor from office with a petition if necessary. But you can't do that with city council or city manager. The city manager, by charter, can only be removed by 5 votes of the city council. Consequently, that means that as long as that city manager has 3 of the council members satisfied, a minority of council, he or she keeps the job. I think that's wrong. Whether we continue with the city manager form of government or not, there should be more accountability in that office.
Thank you. Chris, you'll continue to keep the time on this. 90 seconds, Max. 90 seconds. Yep, thanks.
I do support the current form of government. I appreciate that it's nonpartisan, and I appreciate that we have a diverse group of people representing different parts of our city that come together to make decisions. I believe it's perfect that we have a city manager that is trained and educated to perform her job, and that she answers to city council and works at their discretion. I believe that's all I have to say about that. Sorry.
Thank you. I think the situation related to the current structure is one that's more about how people work together than the structure itself. I think we've been successful in the past in having this structure and it working. But I don't know that it's actually working as well as it has in the past in this current. So I think it goes more to who are the people, How do they communicate across lines? How do they respect one another's positions? So I believe it could work. Now, if I were going to white paper this, I don't believe I would have the current structure. I do believe, as David has said, that it's a little clunky, and I would think that, hey, if we had a mayor, and a mayor had the ability to run the city, and the voters had the ability to determine that leadership through the vote, it would be a better situation. But I'm not opposed to how it is now, and I would support it. I just think we need to do a better job communicating across the lines.
Questions?
Just a quick thing. Two of the candidates did not address whether you would keep it nonpartisan or whether you would convert it to have party affiliations for running. And just my own thought on it is, on the school board, I found it very beneficial not to have national and state politics involved, but I'll ask you.
I would agree. I don't see why it needs to be a partisan situation.
I agree. The issues relating to Hudson's future they're the same whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or any other party. I would say that a nonpartisan organization, or rather election process would be appropriate.
Can I add one thing real quick? It's also my understanding that when looking at Ohio, cities that have the city manager form of government tend to be more successful than the mayor-driven form of government.
I disagree entirely with that. Totally disagree.
Bill?
I have a specific question for all of you, particularly Mr. Warhatch. What are the specific things you're trying to do when you get into office? I'm not talking about balancing things out between the mayor and the city council and the city manager. I'm talking about things like roads, things like that. What do each one of you want to do to improve our community?
What I ran for at-large candidate 2 years ago, and I put out several papers on this particular issue. And that time, the principal issue was still the roads in the city, and that's still the case. The problem we have is City Council allocates funds that could be earmarked for roads and road improvements to other things. And I think that the thing I would like to bring to the table is putting a policy-specific, policy-centric focus on the key features of what a city should be able to deliver to its residents and business owners. One is a great infrastructure, which includes roads, sewers, utilities, water. And the second one is the safety forces, making sure that those are robust and that they work in conjunction with the school district to make sure the entire community and the children at the schools are going to be safe. I frankly think that City Council has lost its focus. It's gone off into these various directions that I talked about in my speech, and I think that's wrong. I hope that answers your question.
I would personally like to encourage council and our community to keep moving forward in a progressive manner. As our population is growing older and aging out, we need to basically attract younger residents as well as businesses to this community. So having things like broadband becomes very attractive to people looking to move into our city, whether they're residents or business owners, especially with the trend that people are working out of their home more and more. They need high-speed internet that will work to help them do that. Sorry, I should have written down more notes. I would also like to see us move forward with consolidating to the new City Hall. I think it'll be a great facility. As a business owner, I'm often looking for places to have off-site events for large amounts of people, whether they be authors or conferences or that kind of thing. And I think that will be a great benefit to our city, as well as cutting down on extra spending for different leases. And I think I'm out of time.
Thank you for the question. I think that's a really important question. And I would say this. I would focus on infrastructure. That's the first thing. I believe that it's important that we take our limited resources and we allocate them into the places that that can do the greatest good. My concern with Velocity Broadband is that it's really not the business of local government to be in the business of providing internet services. I've talked to a lot of voters who walk out of their home. Most of them are just downloading Excel files. They don't need what we're trying to sell them. And of the larger corporations, they've already put their infrastructures in. And my concern is that those dollars that will go to Velocity Broadband will not go to other things. I have a daughter who is a police officer in Columbus and another daughter who is a school teacher down in Delaware, Ohio. And so I'm looking to finance schools and EMS and police and fire and to Kate's point related to attracting millennials or others who would want to move in there. They want to move into my house. They want to move into this community for the very reasons that most of us, or that I moved into it 27 years ago, right, is that it's a great place to raise a family. They want to own a dog and they need a yard to do that, and they want me out of my house so they can move into mine.
Other questions? Dan Rich.
You ready?
Dan?
I understand that Phase 2 was originally objected to largely with concerns for traffic. I'd be very much interested, now that the bus farm has been moved out of the Phase 2 area, whether you think that this is now bad for traffic or frankly good for traffic.
Well, I'll go ahead. I don't think I've started, so I'll go ahead and start. I don't think any of us really know the answer related to that. I believe that there are technologies that have been talked about that will help alleviate or mitigate the traffic, but the voters are highly concerned about the traffic situation. Depending on what part of town you live in, this could be painful for some residents, or more so than it is for others. But at the end of the day, right, downtown belongs to all of us. I want to see us do something to develop that area, and I do believe that we have an obligation from a tax-based perspective to go forward. But I would want to ask a lot of questions related to how do we plan to mitigate the traffic concerns. I believe it can be done. We're smart enough to do it, but I have more questions than I probably have answers related to that, to be perfectly honest with you.
Having my business downtown, traffic is always a concern for me, as well as parking. I believe that the city has done a number of traffic studies which have been useful in our trying to figure out the best way to alleviate that. The smart signals, I think, are something worth pursuing, and I believe that will actually help. Our big problem isn't necessarily traffic all the time, it's just during peak hours, so if we can figure out the best way to manage that, I think it will be beneficial for everyone.
How many else have the favorite movie of Field of Dreams? One of my favorites. And the ghost says, if you build it, he will come. If you build this, they will come. The city council has approved densities down there that are not seen anywhere in Hudson and are out of character with the city. I don't care what they want to say about the comprehensive plan. The fact is, nobody has ever approved the kinds of densities that this city council has approved. That's going to create problems down the road far more in terms of traffic than we ever had with you called it the bus farm, the garage that was down there. In addition, there's a part of Phase 2 which is not yet specified for development, and who knows what the heck city council is planning for that area. I think that there will be increased traffic concerns, and I fear for the people on Owen Brown and Clinton Streets.
A question in the back?
Yes, this has to do with infrastructure. I live over in Old Town Colony, and the roads in my area are iffy at times. And of course, when half the road was paved, I called the engineer and said, what's going on? And the question was, there's not enough money to do this project or other road projects all at one time in Hudson. So the question to the candidates is, it has been proposed that a bond issue of maybe 10 million, get the job done all at one time, and therefore our infrastructure is improved. And especially because of the fact at this point we've got low interest rates at 2 and 3%. To me, it would make sense to do that. What's your opinion?
Before I would commit more of the city's finances to another bond, remember, we still have to deal with the Youth Development Center issue that was acquired years ago and lays fallow right now with no solution in sight. I would say that, first of all, we better take a look at the current budget. There's plenty of funds available to have been able, over the last several years, to provide for routine maintenance of these roads. You know, if you don't do it now, you're going to have to fix these roads at greater cost down the road. They could have done this for years. 2 years ago, when I ran for at-large, I put out a leaflet. I circulated it in my area in particular because our roads in the south end of town were being neglected by city council left and right. Miraculously, in the last 2 years, maybe because they were embarrassed by the fact that I called this out to them, those roads have been fixed. They are not getting to these road projects quickly enough because they're deflecting the resources elsewhere. In addition to that, if you really want to take a sharp pen to the budget, you might look at the staffing and the way in which our compensation line item for city employees in the management ranks has skyrocketed. We could find plenty of opportunities for additional funds to be able to fix roads if we pare down the staff.
I spoke with Thomas Sheridan recently about the roads, actually, and he explained to me the system for which we decide what gets fixed next and how oftentimes they work to replace things such as sewers and that along with roads. So they're doing it all at once and the community doesn't need to be interrupted multiple times. I think the system is good. I think Tom does a great job of it and I think we are getting to them. And I would also like to say perspective is relative sometimes. One of my sales reps from Michigan was in just yesterday and telling me how great the roads in our town are. And I know we have work to do, but let's keep it all in perspective, please.
Well, they were from Michigan, and so they probably did have worse roads than we had. But my feeling is the fact that we have to consider a bond to handle what should be part of out of our general fund, I think speaks to some of the issues that we're dealing with. We should be able to pay for this, and this goes back to my concerns related to like Velocity Broadband or some of the other places where we're spending money. I believe that when you go down some of these rabbit holes, you don't allow yourself the funding to do some of the basics. So until I could get a better look behind the curtain and kind of understand where exactly our money is going at this particular point, I don't know that I'd be in favor of something like a bond, but I do believe we have to prioritize the roads and the infrastructure.
Right, all the questions have been coming from stage left. Is there anybody over here that has a question? Yeah, Nora? Nora?
Oh, okay.
All right. I'd like to hear what the three candidates would like to see done with the YDC property.
I'll take that question and I'll say this. I don't think it's important what I want to see done with it. I'd like to know what the voters want to have done with it. And that's really, I think, what my campaign is about. If I'm running because I have an idea or that I want to see something done, then I'm really not running as a representative. Now, I believe we need to do something with it. It sits there. It's not generating any revenue at all or helping us in any way, shape, or form. And I've heard voters just, tell me that they'd like to see any number of different things there. And so I think it's high time we made it a priority, something that we said to folks, tell us what you want to do with it, and then begin to move on it. I think there's a ton of different things that could be done, businesses, or there could be the possibility of a rec center people keep asking about. Those are all possibilities, but I think it's more important what the voters want to do with that than what I want to do with it.
I appreciate the fact that the city has worked to control what happens on the YDC property and that It's my understanding 297 acres, I think it is now parkland, which is a wonderful addition to our community. As far as what needs to be done with the rest of it, I think it should be developed. It would be great if we could get some more tax money into this, and I would like to, much like Ron, see what our constituents think about that.
Well, first of all, I want to make it clear that I was in favor of making sure we get control of that part of the land, I mean, that part of the city. The issue that you're having here is that it's not just a matter of the development of that property, the site. If you do it, again, if you build it, they will come. You're going to have to make wholesale improvements to Hines Hill Road as well, which means that the question is, do we attract a developer who will be able to do a standalone development of the site, or do we do what City Council has been apt to do, is subsidize these developers all the time? Phase 2 and the downtown redevelopment project. And instead, and I'm certain, and I don't want to see that at all. I do believe that some development of that area should be appropriate. The one thing I can pledge to you is that because of my background and experience, both in land use planning and also in private practice and real estate matter, is that I would hit the job running and there'd be no learning curve. We'd be working on this from day one.
Any final question? One last question, Mimi?
I'm curious about actually two things. One is where you would, how you would proceed into the future to assure that the residents of Hudson have access to sustainable energy, because we're in an area where there's a huge flux in the access to sustainable energy. And the other has to do with any issue on which you would have to recuse yourself due to a conflict of interest with respect to what comes before City Council.
Personally, I'm a big proponent of sustainable energy. I would like to see what we can do with this, and then I would like to be able to, going forward, especially in areas like Phase 2, to encourage people to build using those products. I think it would be helpful for our community as well as for our Earth, obviously. I don't know of anything that would make me have to recuse myself from votes, but I guess I would cross that bridge when I got to it.
Thank you. I believe in being a good steward of our environment, a good steward of our community. That's part of the reason why I'm running. It's one of the tenets of the organization that I currently work for at MTD. We believe to be good stewards. To the extent that, I think local government can be supportive of that, I'm perfectly fine with it. We used to have recycling centers and places all over the town. I can't find one now. I have to drive everything down to Stowe Road, and that's a pain for me to be able to do that. So, regarding that, that's my position there. I don't believe there is any reason that I would need to recuse myself from any particular issue that I can think of.
Recusing, of course, meaning disqualify yourself from participating. And the only thing that would be with me is I do represent individuals who are civil servants. And I currently have a matter against the city involving a civil servant. So obviously, if that were to come up, I would have to recuse myself. But luckily, we just settled that case, so I have nothing right now. With respect to the issue involving the sustainable energy solutions, to be honest with you, with great respect, that is a situation that's going to require intervention at the state and county levels. The city should be cooperative in that respect, but sustainable energy demands of the citizens transcend local boundaries. And what we do in Hudson is not going to amount to a lot unless everybody else around us is also joining in. So I think that a cooperative spirit with the other communities is important, but trying to encourage state and county officials to be implementing programs for sustainable energy is something that every citizen of Hudson and the government in this city should support.
Hey, I would like to thank our three candidates in reverse alphabetical order: David Warhatch, Kate Schlotterman, Ron Panaggio. Also like to thank our intrepid timekeeper, Chris Barker. So the most important thing, you've listened to the candidates. If you're in Ward 1, get out and vote for your choice on November, whatever it is. but thank you again.
Thank you, George, and thank you to our candidates. Let me just pass along our quote of the week from Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Democracy cannot succeed unless those who express their choice are prepared to choose wisely. The real safeguard of democracy, therefore, is education. And I think we've exercised that today. And we're going to continue to do that in the next few weeks. So just a reminder, next week's program, Ward 2 City Council candidates Chris Foster and Lisa Radigan will be here. Same sort of format, George, I assume. And, you know, anybody here who's a guest is welcome to come next week, but I want to remind our Rotarians, bring guests, because this is really an excellent opportunity to showcase the Rotary Club and the role we play in the community, or part of the role. Let's see, Rotabuck today, the payout is $15. The jackpot, which I'm afraid is available only for Rotarians of this club. Is that how it works, Chris? Or any Rotarian? I don't know. Kate, I'm going to say this club. So, but okay. So, may I ask, Kate, would you pick a ticket here? All right. The last four digits are 2033. 2033. All right. Jumping Jim J. Hearn, yeah. All right, $15. Please note there is a black marble in there.
Where? Oh, yeah.
Okay. And select. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not a black one. Try again next week. All right. Let's see. Anything else? Just want to remind, we've got the cluster meeting after this down in the Greenwood dining room. And as we leave this meeting today, let's all go out there and show the world that we are proud to be Rotarians. I declare this meeting adjourned.